So this race, which of the 55 terrible things that happened in this race do you want to talk about first?
I guess we can go ahead and jump into the tires.
Okay, all right. So this might be the biggest disaster since Indianapolis in 2008.
Just about, yeah.
I mean, so for those of you who don't know what happened in Indy 2008, the tires could not stay together, much like they couldn't here, and so it resulted in NASCAR basically throwing a caution every 10 laps so that teams could put tires on. And it's basically what killed the Brickyard, or helped kill the Brickyard on the oval. After that, attendance declined rapidly. Um, this, I am honestly, especially the way the announcers were talking about it during the race, I am almost shocked we didn't have I think if Indy '08 hadn't happened, we would have probably seen like something like that happen if it hadn't gone the way it did in
Yeah.
the aftermath. Um, let's okay. Let's talk about why this is okay. So the tires, they couldn't hold together because the car's going too damn fast in the center of the corner. Corner speeds were just ungodly fast because we have to have fast corner speeds because that's what makes good racing, right? Um, and the puts just a ridiculous load on the tires. And now, who do you put at blame for this?
Um, fuck. I mean, it's NASCAR in my eyes because we don't have enough horsepower. We designed this tire, this low profile tire. I don't know why we did this. No other racing series that I can think of off the top of my head that runs this fast runs low profile. Um, we added rear suspend, independent rear suspension. What has that helped? Like as far as the racing product, what have we gained from this? And we don't have enough practice too. A lot of these issues would get caught in practice. And I know we were at Texas earlier this year, but it was a
No,
little bit different. And it was a lot hotter too. So if it is camber, then there's no excuse to not be running
not
2 hours
Cam.
of practice. No.
I mean,
But
it's a combination.
yeah.
All right, here's my opinion. I think it's a combination of NASCAR, the teams, and Goodyear. I don't think the low profile tire. I don't have a problem. I don't think that's the. I think we could. One, I don't understand why we can't put interliners in it. I don't know that that's relevant to this conversation, but that's just the hill I'm going to die on. I don't. I feel like we could. This wouldn't. I feel like a low profile tire isn't the sole catalyst, for this issue. I think it's on NASCAR for the corner speeds being so high, and for what I'm about to explain, with which Rodney Childers explained to all of us. It's on the teams. Well, here I'll go and explain what Rodney Childers said. Rodney Childers, and I'm going to paraphrase. You can read his Twitter and get the whole thing. Basically, um, there is a shock limiter rule, which prevents the rear of the cars, prevents the teams from setting up the cars to where the rear goes too low. Rodney says that if you get rid of the shock limiter rule, you could get the diffuser closer to the ground, and therefore they would run higher air pressures in the car. Because right now what they're doing is they're running these low air pressures to get the rear of the car down and to add more and to get more downforce and make the diffuser work better. So it's on NASCAR at that point to allow them to get the diffuser lower because it's free speed, essentially, is what he's saying. And which we all know that the lower the rear of the car is to the ground, it's going to go faster. It's going to get the spoiler out of the air, and that's just how it works, right? So I think it's on NASCAR for that. it's on the teams because they cannot help themselves. When it comes to risk versus reward, they are always going to take the risk because the reward is too high at this level of competition. Like we're in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs right now. It is do or die. And even if you're not in the playoffs, it's still a win in the Cup Series. It's free speed, and some guys might be too timid to do it. Guess what? You're going to beat those guys if your tire holds together. Now, guys like Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick wrecked out of the lead. They went too much. It's also on Goodyear because why are we bringing tires that are hard as rocks to every racetrack? I mean, good Lord, have they brought a tire to the track this year that's worn like a respectable amount? What, Richmond?
Richmond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it. Like Darlington, the tires didn't they only dropped off what, a second compared to what, 2 to 3 seconds like they normally drop off. I mean, if the tires would wear, then the corner speeds wouldn't be too high, and we'd be able to not have to worry about this because the loads on the tire wouldn't be as much. So it's on all three of them to make it, to make this thing work. Now, I also saw a tweet underneath Rodney Childers' tweet when I was looking at this before the podcast, and it's a very good point. If they get rid of the shock limiter rule and are able to get the diffusers lowered to the ground, Travis Mack brought up this point that they would be going through undercarriages of the car every week, and it would just raise the cost of this car, which the cost of this car is already ridiculous to begin with. But it would just add, I think Denny Hamlin said the undercarriage of these cars are like $50,000 or something. I don't know.
50, yeah, 30
something,
yeah.
some ridiculous number that is really costly for the teams.
Yeah.
Either way, so it is an oversight for sure. Goodyear, they came out, some executive from Goodyear, some fucking jackass no one from Goodyear came out and basically said, we're not making any excuses, and here are 15 excuses as to why this happened, and none of them are our fault. So fuck you, Goodyear. You could suck a dick. Let's get a tire company in here that can build tires that are worth the shit. Firestone hasn't impressed me. I mean, it seems that they have problems all the fucking time. I mean, in IndyCar. So I mean, I don't know who the hell we're gonna get in here. And as far as the teams, I mean, you can't. You have to. I'll end there on this, and then I'll let you speak.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because I pointed out what I was going to say, and I don't want to lose my train of thought.
I can tell.
Here's the thing. NASCAR has to step in, and NASCAR has to control this problem. And Goodyear has NASCAR by the balls because they pay them like an ungodly amount of money. So NASCAR has to be the one to step in and be like, okay, Goodyear, you need to set a limit. You cannot go below this air pressure because you have to save the teams from themselves. The teams are always going to try to find the edge. You cannot prevent them. You can't neuter the teams, but you have to make it to where that they can't push it over the edge to, end up having the result that we had yesterday.
Yeah. That's the same reason safety rules exist in other sports. It's to save people from themselves. But the reason I hesitated so much when you asked the question, who is at fault? And I said NASCAR. Ultimately, I think it is NASCAR through the design of the tire, the car, a whole bunch of things. But it's a whole lot of little things. So yeah. Goodyear making this new tire has not done a very good job.
No.
So there's that. NASCAR mandated the size of the tire and the profile of the tire. There's that. There's how the entire aerodynamics of the car works, which is the rear diffuser, and the team's wanting to get that as low as possible. There's that. There's a couple more things, and I can't think of them off the top of my head because we've been talking about it, and that's how my brain works.
The racetrack of that is fucking terrible.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to even ignore the racetrack because it's not like this is the worst it's been, but it's not the only time we've seen a lot of tire issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to what I said a few weeks ago. There have been I'm going to say a lot now. There have been a lot of major and minor oversights to the design of this car and the implementation of it that have caused these issues. And it was on full display yesterday.
Yeah. Do you remember a lot of tire failures at Charlotte?
No, one or a couple.
Do you remember a lot of tire failures at Atlanta?
I can think of maybe one.
Yeah, that's why I'm not asking you because I'm trying to tell. I genuinely can't remember Michigan. I don't remember a ton of tire failure. So I'm trying to think of tracks that have similar loads in the corner that Texas does, and I can't think of any.
I can think of Auto Club in Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas, I guess would even then, dude. I mean, the corner speeds are quick.
That's probably the most apt comparison, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It ultimately, yeah, it comes down to we got to get the corner speeds lower, and that's something that is just going to have to. I've been a big defender of Goodyear. I wouldn't even say a big defender, but I haven't spoken out about their lack of ability to build race tires. But we've seen this all year long, and part of me wants to believe that we're going to go back to these tracks next year and they're going to fix this. But honestly, they should have been able to. They do all these tire tests. They should have been able to fix this before. I mean, because we raced Texas earlier this year. So I mean, dude, it's just it's inexcusable. I mean, this is this is the biggest black eye in the sport. That, like, because I'll put it like this: I was 11 years old when Indy '08 happened. I don't remember it. For this generation of fan, this is the biggest black eye on the sport that we've ever seen. And in this new age of social media, it is you really get to see how bad this is across the board and across the entire fan base and industry.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear the drivers coming out in full force.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin are doing God's work right now.
Yeah, I'm in love with Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin right now. They are my two favorite drivers at the moment. Get out of here, Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick are my two favorites. But to piggyback off what you were saying about not, I guess, shitting on Goodyear until recently, it's one of those things. Early in the season, I was giving them a pass to an extent. Like,
yeah,
it's all brand new. There's a lot of different factors here. We've seen this now. Kansas, we didn't have as many tire failures, but we still had some. Texas, now we had the floodgates open. It's like you have to be making some adjustments in between these races when it does not go well.
And I want to make it clear, I'm not blaming Goodyear for the tires failing. I'm more putting that on the teams. I'm putting the blame on Goodyear for not bringing a tire that wears to where we're not put in this position.
Yeah.
That's more, I mean, obviously the tires should not be failing, but I think that's more to do with the teams. I mean, I don't know what the camera settings were at Texas, but last week at Bristol, the corner speeds are high. The loads at Bristol are I would say that's almost comparable to like what we had at Texas. And we saw a lot of tire failures. Me and you were standing in the garages last week at Bristol. We saw the camber on some of those cars. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that it was kind of similar here. I think this ultimately comes down to NASCAR's got to fix this, got to protect the teams from themselves. They got to work with Goodyear and do that. I think that's what we need to do here.
Again, that comes back down to why did we make the rear suspension independent? What did we gain? What did we gain performance wise and drive and entertainment wise that is justified this?
You're asking the wrong guy. I have no
Yeah.
clue what how that all works. I mean, kudos to you for having some idea of how that works. That's why I haven't said anything about it. Like, I
Oh,
have no
I
clue
yeah.
how what is that not. I think that's more to make it drive better on road course. That's
Well, and
from
again,
what I understand.
that goes back to something else I said
Yeah,
maybe
we know.
before the season. Well, it's all coming together, and it's making me
Yeah,
less optimistic about the future of this car. Again, I'm not throwing in the towel yet.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing. I don't think it's a bad car by any means. It's just a bad. It's bad setup for it. Like, I think work with the teams because a lot of these parts the teams know. Okay, if we could just tweak these parts, we can make them stronger, and this car would work way better.
Yeah,
I mean, we have the answers to these issues. It's just we need to implement them.
yeah,
I mean, and especially haven't even mentioned this. All these issues we're having that are causing crashes and incidents and shit. We have to fix it more than ever because now drivers are getting hurt. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it is. Alex Bowman said that was the hardest he'd ever hit yesterday. That was like very light contact.
yeah,
I mean, if you go back and look at, he literally just spun out and just barely backed it into the fence. He had more damage to the right front of his car than he did the rear of the car, and that's where he hit. But it was one of the hardest hits he'd ever had. He said, "It is. It has to. We have to make it to where um, these cars are too strong. They have to. They shouldn't be able to survive. Kevin Harvick should not have been able to come back to finish 21st or wherever he finished after wrecking that car. He
yeah,
full on flat out fucking wrecked. Like, he should have been halfway home by the time that damn race ended. Instead, he's still out there. So I mean, we got to fix that because I mean, we damn near killed Cody Ware yesterday. I mean,
yeah.
that's an exaggeration, but I mean, you don't know, man. I mean, he wrecked the shit out of that thing in turn 3 and 4. Scared all of us to death. Gets out of the car and damn near collapses. Thank God Cody's okay. Um, but we can't have this. That wasn't even a tire issue, but I mean, that's just
Yeah.
we have to protect the teams from themselves, and we have to fix these race cars. This is not. I'll put it like this is not a shit car. We've done a shit job at fixing the problems that this car does have. Like,
Yeah, I think the issue is NASCAR's history in the past 10 years or so just doesn't get my hopes up. Again, I'm not throwing in the towel.
yeah,
They have not shown the ability to make the proper adjustments.
I don't think we've seen this big of a revolt from drivers and industry members.
Yeah, no,
Though
never.
we haven't seen this much pushback in from ever since I remember being in the watching the sport. So hopefully that'll do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else about that?
I think
Yeah.
I've got everything off my chest on that topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I want to. I also, just before we end the. I put the blame on everyone. I also want to put the blame on Texas Motor Speedway just because it's Texas Motor Speedway. And
Oh,
that's
hang on. One last thing I want to do.
yes.
The when NBC was going through why this was happening, never once did they mention how fucking high the corner speeds are. Okay? That should have been the first thing they said.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
yeah.
Like, stupid. Fucking call them out when it's wrong. You're Dale
Yeah.
Jr., for fuck's sakes. You can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. I mean, they Rudy Fugel, he said, he's like, oh, well, we're confident in our setup. That I mean, there were a lot of Rodney Childers obviously was the first one to say we're going too damn fast through the center corner. Um, and then there were several crew chiefs that were confident in their setup and because they went conservative, and obviously those guys didn't have issues. So I don't know. We shouldn't have to. We shouldn't. There was a lot of talk about guys in the front not running 100%,
Yeah.
and these guys should never be put in a position like that. Not for that reason.
Yeah.
Like they should. I'm fine with guys not being able to go 100% if it means that like I got to save my car for the end of the race, make sure I save all my good shit, make sure I got some good left in the machine before the end of this thing. Shouldn't be going 80%, 90% just to make sure your tires don't blow out and you don't have a horrendous wreck. So
Yeah.
I don't know.